Do very intelligent people struggle to find love? True or false? It is mostly true, but not for the reason people think. Highly intelligent people do not usually struggle with love because nobody is good enough for them. They struggle because they can sense instability before the relationship has even had time to become real. They reread a text and hear the hesitation inside a sweet sentence. They sit across from someone attractive and feel two things at once: desire and warning. They notice the charm, the inconsistency, the slight emotional vacancy behind the eye contact. While other people are enjoying the moment, they are already reading the pattern. And that changes everything, because love becomes difficult the moment connection stops feeling like presence and starts feeling like prediction. A very intelligent person can be laughing with you and still be tracking the shift in your tone. They can be touched by your affection and still be noticing what does not match. They can want closeness and at the exact same time feel their body preparing for disappointment. That is why this conversation gets misunderstood. People say intelligent people overthink. That is too shallow. The deeper truth is that many of them do not merely think more. They anticipate more. They scan more. They detect more. Their minds do not walk into love unarmed. They walk in translating, comparing, measuring, and quietly preparing for impact. And a mind like that is rarely built by intelligence alone. Very often it is trained. It is shaped in childhood trauma, in emotional neglect, in homes where love was inconsistent, where affection could disappear without explanation, where approval had to be earned, where tension lived in the room even when nobody named it. In those environments, awareness becomes survival. You learn to read faces. You learn to hear what people mean before they say it. You learn that paying attention hurts less than being surprised. So later, as an adult, people call you perceptive, self-aware, deep. What they do not see is the nervous system underneath it. They do not see how exhausting it is to want love and still feel yourself bracing against it. This is where intelligent people start getting trapped. They assume their difficulty in love comes from standards, from discernment, from being rare. Sometimes that is partly true. They may genuinely want depth. They may genuinely be turned off by superficiality, emotional laziness, or empty attraction. But that is not the whole story, because standards can protect you. Defensiveness can look exactly the same. That is the trap. Some people are not rejecting love because it is shallow. They are rejecting it because it is reaching them, because closeness is no longer exciting once it starts becoming real, because attention is easy to enjoy, but intimacy is much harder to tolerate when your whole system associates intimacy with exposure. And highly intelligent people are especially good at disguising this. They know how to explain themselves. They know how to sound clear, balanced, rational, emotionally literate. They can describe attachment styles, abandonment wounds, trauma bonds, self-sabotage, emotional abuse. They can name the pattern with frightening accuracy, but naming a pattern is not the same as leaving it. That is one of the loneliest truths in adult life. You can understand love with your mind and still be completely unsafe inside it with your body. You can know exactly why someone pulls away and still panic when they do. You can recognize a toxic dynamic and still feel magnetized by it. You can speak beautifully about vulnerability while doing almost anything to avoid being seen in an unedited state. And this is where intelligence becomes dangerous. Not because intelligence ruins love, because intelligence can help a person hide from love without looking avoidant. It can turn fear into philosophy. It can turn emotional retreat into high standards. It can turn self-protection into an identity. So instead of saying, I am scared of needing someone, the person says, I just have not met anyone on my level. Instead of saying, consistency feels unfamiliar to my nervous system, they say, I need more intensity. Instead of saying, I do not know how to receive calm love, they say, I am not feeling the chemistry. And sometimes they believe it. That is the part people miss. A highly intelligent person is not always lying to others. Many times they're using intelligence to make their own defenses sound like truth. So what happens next? They become excellent at finding flaws early. Too excellent. They notice the delayed text, the emotional ambiguity, the charm without substance, the warmth without stability. Sometimes they are right. Sometimes they save themselves years of pain by seeing clearly. But other times, they are so focused on detecting what could go wrong that they never fully enter what could go right. They do not let love breathe long enough to reveal itself. They investigate it. They compare it to the past. They test it against future risk. They ask whether it will last before they have even allowed themselves to enjoy the fact that it is here. Their mind keeps trying to turn love into something predictable, and love does not survive well under interrogation. This creates a painful contradiction. Highly intelligent people often crave depth more than most people do. They want emotional honesty. They want psychological intimacy. They want to feel genuinely met. But the more they want depth, the less tolerance they have for emotional ambiguity. And since every real relationship contains ambiguity in the beginning, they can end up sabotaging the very thing they say they want. Not always dramatically, quietly. They pull back a little too early. They become colder when they start caring. They stay impressive instead of becoming open. They remain interpretable, but never fully reachable. They let the other person know their thoughts, their views, their wounds, their theories, their standards, their past. Everything except the raw, present vulnerability of needing something and not knowing if it will be given back. That is the line they struggle to cross. Because being intelligent is safe. Being ordinary in love is not. And love, at its core, is ordinary in a terrifying way. It asks simple things that feel unbearable to a defended person. Stay, trust, reveal yourself. Be misunderstood sometimes. Ask clearly, receive slowly. Do not perform, do not control every outcome. Do not turn every feeling into a concept before it reaches your chest. That sounds simple. To the wrong nervous system, it feels like standing unarmed in front of the possibility of rejection. Now add another layer. Highly intelligent people are often deeply attractive to emotionally wounded partners. Not just physically attractive, psychologically attractive. They listen well, they articulate feelings well, they understand complexity, they can hold contradiction, they can make chaos make sense. So people come to them for something deeper than romance, regulation, translation, containment. And for a while, that can feel like intimacy. It can feel special. Being the one who understands someone so deeply can feel almost sacred. But being needed is not the same as being loved. In fact, for people with emotional neglect in their history, being needed can feel safer than being loved. Being needed gives you a role, a purpose, a way to stay powerful. Love is riskier. Love requires mutuality. Love eventually asks, who are you when you are not rescuing, explaining, or carrying? That question terrifies a lot of intelligent people more than they admit, because some of them built their worth around being exceptional, composed, insightful, or useful. And real love does not care how impressive your mind is if your heart is still locked behind it. This is where the pattern becomes tragic. The intelligent person starts feeling chronically unseen. They meet people who admire them, desire them, depend on them, even confide in them. But very few people actually reach them. Very few make it past the intelligence. Very few encounter the frightened, unguarded self underneath the precision, the restraint, the discernment. And after enough failed connections, cynicism takes over. They stop saying, I want love. They start saying, love is rare. But often, that is not fully true. What is rare is a form of love their defenses can recognize as safe. That is different, because the deeper problem was never simply intelligence. The deeper problem is what intelligence has been assigned to protect. Shame, fear of rejection, fear of dependence, fear of being known and then left, fear of relaxing and discovering you were wrong to trust. Once intelligence becomes the bodyguard for those fears, a person can become almost impossible to love cleanly. Not because they are superior, not because they are cold, because every good thing has to pass through a filter built by old pain. And old pain has strange taste. It often trusts intensity before consistency. It often trusts longing before peace. It often trusts emotional mystery before emotional availability. It often calls anxiety chemistry and calls safety boredom. That is why some highly intelligent people keep choosing people who stimulate them but cannot hold them. People who intrigue them but do not nourish them. People who activate their pattern recognition, their obsession, their hope, their hunger to solve, decode, rescue, or finally get it right. Why? Because a difficult person gives the mind something to do. Healthy love does not. Healthy love is quieter. It does not always produce obsession. It does not always trigger the same dramatic highs and lows. It does not force you to decode mixed signals all night. It does not make you earn every drop of affection. It does not keep proving your intelligence useful. It simply asks whether you can remain present without turning connection into a problem to solve. And that is where some very intelligent people break. Because underneath the brilliance, there is often a person who never learned that love could be steady without becoming dead, or gentle without becoming fake, or safe without becoming empty. So yes, many highly intelligent people do struggle to find love. But the truth is harsher than most people expect. They are not only struggling to find the right person. Many of them are struggling to stop mistaking vigilance for wisdom, to stop confusing emotional distance with discernment, to stop turning every hopeful beginning into an investigation, to stop choosing people they can read instead of people they can rest with, and to stop using insight as a substitute for surrender. Because, in the end, love does not fail for them simply because they see too much. It fails because they often see everything except the moment their own defenses take over the room. The saddest part is not that intelligent people cannot recognize love. It is that they often recognize it only after they have already protected themselves against it. So the real question was never whether highly intelligent people struggle to find love. The real question is whether a person can spend years becoming brilliant at detection and still learn how to be innocent enough, open enough, and emotionally honest enough to let love arrive without treating it like a threat. Because until that happens, intelligence will keep doing what it does best. It will protect the wound, even if it has to lock the heart in with it. If this hits something you have felt but never fully named, subscribe to Shadow Depths, because some patterns are not broken by more insight alone. They break when you finally see what your mind has been protecting and what it has been costing you.